Hi everyone, thank you for joining today's webinar, Navigating the Development Process for Animal Veterinary Products. The webinar today will be hosted by Leo Schilling of Eurofins Animal Health Testing and Kari Nichols of Eurofins Nutrition Analysis Center. I'm Genevieve Randall and I'll be moderating the webinar. Before we begin, I'll let you know more about how this webinar will run. The webinar is being recorded and the slides and recording will be available for you within 3 business days via email. A short Q&A session will follow the presentations and we'll answer viewer submitted questions during that time. During the webinar and afterward, you can submit your questions that you have using the webinar sidebar menu. Just select the questions tab, type in your question, then hit enter on your keyboard. And remember, you can submit questions throughout the presentations. All right, Leo, you can take it away.
Hey, good morning, everyone, and thank you for joining today's webinar. We're conserving some bandwidth today, so hopefully our internet signal stays strong. So just shut off video, but very happy that you all have joined us today. First, I just want to give a little disclaimer, and then just let you know that the views and the opinions expressed or implied in this presentation are those of the presenters, and they may not accurately reflect those of Eurofins or the regulatory agencies discussed in today's webinar. Please do keep in mind that this presentation covers a very wide cross-section of all animal health industries, and the presentation is intended to provide industry stakeholders that may be up or downstream of a process some insight for consideration to other aspects of the product lifecycle. So today we're just going to get started with an overview of the animal veterinary product development process. It's a long and complex journey that involves many stages. The first stage is concept design, where the product is designed and developed. After the concept design is finalized, research and development, regulatory, sourcing, procurement come into the picture, where quality standards and established and the materials and the sources for the product are sourced. Once the raw materials are sourced, the product undergoes an approval process to ensure that it's safe and it's effective. The marketing of the product is then developed and the product is launched into the market. During the development process and post-approval, it's crucial to keep track of your contract manufacturing compliance to make sure that the regulations are being followed. And finally, the product is commercialized into new regional markets if it's successful. And this product can take several years and requires collaboration among various stakeholders involved, such as regulatory bodies and manufacturers and veterinarians. So we're just going to dig a little deeper, into those individual processes before we get into the presentation today. So the research and development of the product, when it comes to developing animal veterinary products, research and development are the critical early steps in the process. This first step involves researching the market competitors, understanding the customer needs, and gathering information that can be used to create a product that meets the needs of the customers. This also includes testing different versions of the product to see which performs the best. It's also very important to keep in mind the regulatory requirements and compliance. The development process for these products is complex and regulated. In order to be approved for use, animal medicines must comply with the regulatory requirements where the product will be sold. So in the United States, for non-drug feed ingredients or products, the USDA, and that's the US Department of Agriculture, and the Plant Health Inspection Service, that's APHIS, veterinary services have developed the International Animal Product Export Regulations, or IREGS, to inform exporters, importing countries requirements for certain, animal origin products. Manufacturing and packaging and distribution is a very important aspect to consider in the planning stages of the process. When it comes to navigating the process for product development, it's important to have a clear overview of the entire process, and this includes everything from research and development to manufacturing, packaging, and distribution. Approval of the product is going to be a pretty long journey. The development process for an animal veterinary product can be complex. It involves various stages that had to adhere to government regulations and guidelines. After the research and development it's followed by the critical steps of pilot studies and clinical trials. There's product testing, and it has to be proven and effective. And after it's proven to be safe and effective, it can move into the approval stage and for use in the market. Earlier, as I mentioned, tracking vendors and suppliers and CDMO compliance, it's important to make sure, through all the product lifestyle that you're tracking your vendors and suppliers and manufacturing contractors to make sure that all the materials used are those that meet the required standards and specifications that were designed for the product. It's also crucial to have trained personnel, validated systems, and qualified equipment to comply with most regulations for veterinary products. Again, finally, when considering expanding into new commercial markets, it's important to conduct research in those markets to make sure that that you have the same issues to solve in the foreign markets as you do in domestic ones. And once a product has been created, it's important to expand it to new commercial markets. And we'll talk about that a little bit more, a few more slides. And next, Kari is going to be talking about the identification of the need for a new product.
Yeah, creating a new animal veterinary product requires a thorough understanding of the current animal health programs and the need for specific products. In this presentation today, we're going to start with the topics of research and development of the product, regulatory requirements and compliance, development of the product, as well as the manufacturing, packaging, and distribution of the product at a very high level. Okay. So in evaluating the need for a new product, there are several factors that really impact and drive the development of new specialty nutrition as well as veterinary drug products. As we are all aware, new information is consistently being brought forward in all areas of animal health. Veterinary drugs may need to be developed to combat drug-resistant parasites and bacteria, to use as an alternate treatment or in rotation with existing options. Shortening withdrawal times, in addition to impact to human health, new information about existing diseases, driving desire for alternate treatment options, acquiring research about mode of transfer between animals on existing diseases, as well as emerging disease threats. These are all things that are driving and pushing the need to continue developing veterinary drugs for use in our marketplace. So the FDA defines a new animal drug as any drug intended for use in animals other than man, including drugs intended for use in animal feed, but not including the animal feed itself, the composition of which is such that the drug is not generally recognized as safe, so GRAS, and effective for use under the conditions prescribed, recommended, or suggested in the labeling of the drug. Products not classified as drugs are generally recognized as safe, or GRAS. Developing animal veterinary products is a complex process. So all of the things aforementioned are kind of the precursors, and the rest of the process requires a lot of planning and consideration on numerous factors. So in the next section of the presentation, we're going to talk about some of the key elements to consider when developing an animal veterinary product. So again, high-level regulatory requirements for animal vet products, safety considerations, product design and testing processes for these products, manufacturing and distribution, as well as a high-level overview of marketing or considerations for marketing an animal veterinary product. As previously mentioned, the first step in the product development process is really identifying a need for a new product, current or future. So a need that is immediate or a need that we see coming based on trends in the world. So once identified, a manufacturer may look to the current marketplace, if they have not already, to get a better feel and understanding of what gap the product would be filling, or if it would be competing with an existing product in the marketplace. Manufacturers should also know what their target species are, as well as the intended use of the drug that they are going to be manufacturing. Drugs can be multifunctional across different species, and this is where we get into major species, major uses, minor species, and minor uses with the FDA. Getting into the development side of things a little bit further. So when we're looking at developing an animal veterinary product, there are several key elements that must be considered. The research and development piece of the process is a really crucial role. So this part of the process includes identifying the target animal, understanding the disease or the condition being treated, and determining the appropriate dosage, as well as the delivery method. Before any testing can take place, the applicable regulatory compliance requirements have to be understood. Because if you're not compliant with those regulations, the product's not going to be able to make it into the marketplace. In that way, we make sure the product is safe and effective for its intended use. Once the applicable quality standard regulations are in place, both preclinical and clinical trials can be conducted to evaluate the safety and efficacy of the product. We also think it's important to consider unique aspects of the manufacturing process when developing these types of products. Most veterinary products must be manufactured in accordance with good manufacturing practices, so CGMP guidelines, to ensure quality and consistency. Ultimately, successful development of an animal veterinary product involves thorough research, adherence to regulatory requirements, and careful consideration of various factors throughout the development process. Animal health products are vital to health of pets and livestock. They can range from vaccines to medications to supplements, and they are necessary to maintain agricultural resources, food supply chains, and healthy companion animals. As such, it is essential that veterinary product testing must be performed throughout the development process of any veterinary product. So depending on the type of animal product that the manufacturer is developing and the safety requirements set forth by the regulatory agencies that govern over those products, as well as societies, testing can take different forms, such as animal testing or in vitro human trials. Safety and efficacy of animal veterinary products must be ensured through quality control and assurance process that includes thorough testing at every stage of development. This involves conducting tests on the product itself, such as animal trials and toxicological studies, but it also includes testing ingredients used in the manufacturing process of the end product. In addition to this, an effective quality control and assurance process should also include ongoing monitoring and evaluation of the product to detect any potential issues before they become a problem. Ultimately, a comprehensive quality control and assurance process for animal veterinary products ensures the safety and efficacy of these vital healthcare products. So now we're going to get into the manufacturing piece a little bit more. The manufacturing and distribution of the animal veterinary products is an essential aspect of keeping our furry friends healthy and happy. So we all know that you can develop a great product, but if it can't reach the end user or doesn't reach the end user in the way that it is still safe and effective on use, that's a problem. So these products can include everything from medication and vaccines to supplements and grooming supplies. In order to ensure the safety and effectiveness of these products, They must be produced under strict regulatory standards and guidelines, as we previously touched on. This involves extensive testing and quality control measures throughout every stage of the manufacturing process. Once these products have been manufactured, they are distributed through a variety of channels, such as veterinary clinics, online retailers, and pet supply stores. It's crucial that these products are stored and transported properly in order to maintain their quality and efficacy. Ultimately, the manufacturing and distribution of animal vet products plays a vital role in maintaining the health and well-being of our animal companions. Marketing an animal veterinary product requires a targeted approach. Again, this kind of goes back to the pieces we discussed in the beginning of the presentation about what is the target, what is the goal with the product. Once that has been identified, so you can further identify the specific market segment you are targeting, such as pet owners or farmers. This helps the manufacturer tailor their messaging and communication channels to reach your target audience effectively. Once identified, it's easier for the manufacturer to develop a clear and concise message that highlights the benefits of the product. This could include features such as improved animal health, increased productivity, and reduced costs to the person who is ultimately, feeding the animal or caring for the animal. Consider using case studies or testimonials to demonstrate how your product has developed other animals, has helped other animals or farmers. So really being able to highlight through other individuals' actual experience with the product and showing how it's reduced costs or increased productivity on their farm is super important in the marketing piece of these new products. In addition to traditional marketing channels such as print and digital media, trade shows, conferences, all of those things where you're face-to-face, that's going to help reach potential customers directly. Again, we cannot stress enough to ensure that all pieces of manufacturing these products, including the marketing, are compliant with regulatory requirements, and that the packaging and labeling for the product are clear and accurate. Once it reaches the point of the labeling and packaging, again, there are additional requirements that must be complied with, and following those steps will help us ensure that the product is being effectively marketed to the right target audience.
Thank you, Kari. Next today, we're going to talk about some regulatory requirements. Animal health regulations are necessary to protect animal health and welfare, prevent dangerous and costly pests and diseases, and to ensure that the animal products are safe and lawful for consumption. Topics on regulatory requirements for animal veterinary products discussed today will include FDA guidelines for veterinary drugs, regulatory requirements for veterinary products in the EU, clinical trials, protocols, and good laboratory practices, and guidelines for quality assurance and quality control of veterinary medicines. And we'll also talk about the testing and validation requirements for animal veterinary products. When it comes to animal veterinary products, there are many regulatory requirements that must be considered. One of the most important regulatory bodies in the United States is the FDA, which has put many regulations in place to ensure the safety and efficacy of animal medicines. Quality pet care is essential for the health and well-being of pets, and the FDA is responsible for approving and regulating animal medicines to ensure that they meet high standards. All veterinary drugs must undergo a rigorous approval process, which involves testing and evaluation to determine their safety, effectiveness, and their appropriate dosages. The FDA also monitors the manufacturing process and conducts regular inspections to ensure that the veterinary drugs continue to meet the highest standards of quality after approval. In addition, the FDA requires all veterinary drugs to include detailed prescribing information and cautionary statements on their labels so that pet owners and producers are aware of any potential risks or side effects. The goal of these guidelines is to protect the health and welfare of animals and humans and to ensure that veterinary drugs are used safely and effectively to treat a wide range of conditions and diseases. There are many different applications in the, so just kind of first taking a look at drug products. There are many different applications in the animal drug approval process with the FDA. So we'll talk about three. The first one, one of the most common ones, when you have a new animal drug, it's the NADA, which stands for New Animal Drug Application. Also, just summarized here on the slide is information about the abbreviated New Animal Drug Applications for approval of generic drugs that have already been produced. It's interesting about those because a generic drug, as long as it's designed after the pioneer product, doesn't have to go through as rigorous of a approval process as that work has already been done by the sponsor of the pioneer drug. We'll also talk about another type of application called CNADA. It's a conditional new animal drug application. Always consult with the FDA, when you're approaching this path, just to make sure that you're going down the right one when you're beginning this development process. It's always a good idea to get in touch with them as they are motivated to make sure that your approval goes through without mistakes. There are many reasons that a sponsor would need to submit a new animal drug application. This just really outlines some of the high-level reasons that a drug might need to have that we might need a new drug. And bioequivalence and safety studies. There are considerations to the environmental impact. All of these things have to be summarized in these drug applications. Also, just wanted to briefly go over the conditional new drug application. It's similar to the new animal drug application. The difference here is the drug has to meet all the requirements of an NADA, but it doesn't have to demonstrate substantial effectiveness. So until the demonstration of effectiveness is substantially proven by the sponsor, the conditional new animal drug application is an option to get a product on the market. So next, we're just going to be talking about some environmental impacts. It's important to keep these things in mind. There are a few animal drugs that also function as pesticides, and depending on the concentration of these products and where they are in their distribution process, they could be very high concentration compounds that could sequester in soil, could be carcinogenic. So there are protection agencies that are monitoring the use of animal drugs and have specific regulations that are applicable to the category of drug that you're working with. Regulatory requirements for veterinary products in the EU are governed by the European Medicines Agency. The EMA is responsible for establishing and implementing regulatory procedures for the approval of veterinary products, including medicines and vaccines and other types of feed additives. The Veterinary Medicines Directorate is an executive agency of the Department for Environment, Food and Rural Affairs, seeking to protect public health, animal health, and the environment by promoting animal welfare by assuring safety, quality, and efficacy of veterinary medicines in the United Kingdom. So we have the EMA in the EU and the VMD in the United Kingdom. The regulatory process for veterinary products involves a rigorous evaluation of their safety, of efficacy, and quality according to the European standards. Like those in the United States, these standards are designed to protect animal health and welfare, as well as protect the public health and the environment. In order to be approved for use in the EU, a veterinary product must meet these standards and undergo a thorough assessment by the EMA's Committee for Medicinal Products for veterinary use. That's the CVMP. The CVMP weighs the benefits of a product against its potential risks and makes recommendations to the European Commission, which ultimately decides whether to grant the marketing authority. Compliance with these regulations is critical for companies that manufacture and sell veterinary products in the EU. So next, just wanted to dive into some thought on safety studies. So that would be target animal effectiveness, target animal safety, and residue depletion. So clinical trial protocols and good laboratory practices are essential elements in ensuring the safety and efficacy of new medical veterinary products. Clinical trial protocols outline the specific procedures and guidelines for conducting a clinical trial, including recruitment criteria, dosages, and safety checks. These protocols are rigorously reviewed and approved by regulatory bodies before a study can start. Importantly, they're developed by industry experts. There are a few harmonizing bodies. So the OECD is the Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development. It's an intergovernmental organization with 38 member countries. It was founded in 1961 to stimulate economic progress and world trade. One of the advantages with doing business in an OECD member country is they have agreed to accept the regulatory standards of a country where the work is being performed as compliance with their own. So as long as work is conducted in compliance at a local level, that work could potentially be accepted for regulatory purposes in a different market. Obviously, in those cases, it's important to stay in touch with both regulatory agencies. Guidelines for quality assurance and quality control of veterinary medicines are important to ensure the safety, effectiveness, and quality of the products. Quality assurance includes procedures and processes to ensure that the product meets its intended standards throughout its entire life cycle, from development to distribution. Quality control involves the testing and monitoring of the product to ensure that it meets the necessary standards. To achieve these goals, guidelines have been established by regulatory bodies to provide specific guidance on development, manufacture, and testing of veterinary medicines. These guidelines are set out the requirements for the quality, safety, and efficacy of the product, as well as the procedures for conducting clinical trials and manufacturing. The guidelines also emphasize the importance of good manufacturing practices, good laboratory practices, and good record-keeping practices to maintain the quality and consistency of the product. In addition, they provide guidance on the proper storage, handling, distribution, and label and veterinary medicines to ensure the safety and efficacy. Product testing and analytical method validation are critical steps in ensuring the safety and efficacy of veterinary products. These requirements were put in place to ensure that products are thoroughly tested for their intended use and provide confidence in the accuracy of the testing results. Testing includes evaluations of a product identity, purity, potency, and stability, among other factors. Analytical method validation involves testing of the reliability and accuracy of the method that's used to assess the product characteristics. Adherence to these requirements is essential in protecting animal health and welfare, as well as ensuring the safety of the individuals who handle the products. Companies producing animal veterinary products must adhere to these regulations and ensure that their products meet the highest standards of quality and safety. And there have been advancements in technology and scientific understanding to continue to shape these requirements. So ensuring that they involve with the industry and remain effective at protecting public health and safety. So next, we're just going to talk about product development challenges. We can't hit all of them, but we can certainly go across a few that can certainly be avoided. Animal health innovations, present a set of complex, interdependent challenges. Among these are regulatory requirements for animal health products that sponsors and producers need to follow while treating animals, and the cost of animal health products and the safety of them also needs to be considered. So some of these challenges that are associated with animal veterinary product development include understanding the regulations and legislation related to animal veterinary products, adapting animal veterinary products to different countries and regions, navigating the approval process for animal veterinary products, and overcoming technical challenges in developing animal veterinary products. So first, we're just gonna, talk about understanding the regulations. Regulations and legislation related to animal veterinary products are in place to ensure the safety and efficacy, this is the theme, of these products for both the animal and the humans who use them. In the United States, the Food and Drug Administration is responsible for regulating animal veterinary products, including vaccines and medications and food additives. These gain FDA approval, and the manufacturers must conduct extensive testing to demonstrate safety and effectiveness and manufacturing controls, and they must comply with strict manufacturing and labeling guidelines. I just kind of wanted to highlight, some of the history that's associated with, the creation of these guidelines and oversight from the FDA. But first, you're going to notice that this, it kind of really covers again a pretty wide cross section of industry, not just animal health in this case. But all of these examples, the things to take away from this is regulations were put in place because at one point there was a cause, there was an incident. And so a new regulation was the result. So just kind of going through a few examples, Congress passed the Pure Food and Drug Act in 1906, and for the first time, it became illegal to sell contaminated food and drug products. And that is what led to the formation of the Food and Drug Administration. In 1938, Congress passed the Federal Food and Drug Cosmetic Act, that's the FD&C Act, which required companies to prove that their products are safe before selling them and gave the FDA authority to regulate the manufacturing and sale of food and drugs and cosmetics. Again, for the first time. That was only in 1938. GLP regulations came about in the 1970s, and GLP regulations were developed to regulate products and really provide framework for running a study. That includes the live phase as well. So if you're interested in some good reading, these are oldies but goodies. So get your hands on a copy of The Jungle if you're interested in hearing some horror stories about some lessons learned from studies that were conducted in the past, and a little history of the FDA in this book, Pure Food, from James Harvey Young. Adapting animal veterinary products to different countries and regions is an essential process that ensures the safety and efficacy of these products. Different countries and regions have different regulations and requirements for animal health products and how it's important for manufacturers to comply with these regulations and requirements when designing and producing veterinary products. This process involves considering factors such as regional diseases and environmental conditions that might impact storage conditions, product shelf life and packaging. Might also impact considerations to cultural and societal attitudes towards animal health. An example there is, in some countries, the use of antibiotics in animal health is strictly forbidden, and while other countries, like in the US, it is more widely accepted. So by adapting veterinary products to specific countries and regions, manufacturers can ensure that they're meeting the needs of local farmers, veterinarians, and producers, while also following applicable laws and regional preferences. Overall, this process plays a crucial role in ensuring the safety and health of animals around the world. Again, we've talked about how complex the process is. It takes several stages to develop a new animal product, whether it's a drug product or a specialty nutrition product. It includes preclinical stages and pilot studies, clinical studies, and regulatory submissions. The goal of the approval process is to ensure that the products are safe and effective, and that they are of high quality for use in animals and safe for humans. In order to gain approval, manufacturers must provide extensive data and evidence to regulatory authorities that demonstrate the safety and efficacy of their products. This data must be meticulously compiled and analyzed to meet regulatory standards. Once the regulatory submission has been made, there need to be additional reviews, negotiations, and amendments required before a product is approved for use. It is important to work with the experienced regulatory professionals to plan for ample time for the process to ensure success. It is not a quick one, so plan ahead. Finally, just going to talk about some technical challenges. They can present a number of technical challenges. One of the biggest challenges is ensuring that the product is safe, of course, for the targeted animal species. This requires careful research and development to ensure that the product is designed to meet the unique biological and physiological needs of the animal. Another challenge is to ensure that the product is stable and has a good shelf life. And that, can obviously, as we just mentioned, can vary by region. This can be especially difficult when dealing with biological preparations like vaccines and other specialized products that require precise manufacturing and storage conditions. Finally, product development must take into account the regulatory requirements and approval process of various countries, which can vary significantly depending on the location, as previously mentioned. Fortunately, overcoming these technical challenges is possible with careful planning, specialized expertise, and rigorous testing. By collaborating with experts in the field, manufacturers can create products that meet the highest standards for efficacy, safety, and quality. Quality control and quality assurance. We're going to talk about this section next, and the critical aspects of ensuring safe and effective products is maintaining quality control and quality assurance. We'll review adhering to relevant laws and regulations, implementing quality assurance measures throughout product development, and establishing a process for product recalls if it's necessary. When it comes to animal veterinary products, it's essential to adhere to relevant laws and regulations to ensure the safety and well-being of the animals, the producers, and the companion animal owners. This includes regulations regarding product labeling, packaging, storage, and distribution. It's important to understand the specific regulations in your region and the regions that you'll be marketing to. Adhering to relevant laws and regulations is critical when it comes to animal veterinary products. These products are subject to strict regulations to ensure their safety and their quality. Regulatory agencies such as the FDA and EPA provide guidelines and standards that guide sponsors and producers in the products that they produce. Failure to comply with these regulations can result in serious consequences, including legal action, fines, and reputational damage. In addition to legal actions, it's also important to adhere to ethical standards and best practices in the industry. This includes being transparent about the ingredients and production processes used in your products and ensuring that they're safe for use in animals. By ensuring these guidelines, you can provide high quality veterinary products that are both effective and ethical, establishing a strong reputation within the industry and among animal owners. Finally, we're going to talk about implementing quality assurance measures throughout the development process. It's critical to maintain reliability of the products. It's important to stay up to date with the latest regulations and technology to ensure that these quality assurance measures are up to standard. They do change occasionally, and producers should work closely with their commercial partners to develop and maintain these practices. By conducting ongoing checks and tests throughout the development process, Any potential problem or defects can be identified and addressed before they become larger issues that are more difficult and expensive to fix. Quality assurance measures not only involve testing of the product itself, but also involves the process that leads up to the creation of the product to ensure that they are effective and they're efficient. This process monitors everything from project timelines and budgets to communication and collaboration among team members. Ultimately, the goal of implementing quality assurance measures is to optimize the product development process and create products that meet or exceed customer expectations. Occasionally, things do go wrong. So, it is very important as, part of a disaster recovery plan to ensure that your facility has established a process for product recalls. You're never expecting it, but it's very critical to have one in place if it should happen. If a product is deemed to be unsafe or defective, a recall may be necessary to prevent harm to customers. The first step in establishing a product recall process is to create an internal team that will be responsible for responding to any potential issues. This team should include experts from different departments such as legal, quality, and public relations. The team should also establish a clear communication plan for notifying customers and coordinating with regulatory agencies. This plan should include guidelines for determining the scope of the recall and identifying affected products. Your company should also develop a system for tracking recalled products and ensure they're appropriately disposed of, or if it's possible, repaired. By establishing a clear and effective process for product recalls, companies can protect the health and safety of their customers and maintain the trust and reputation. All right, and next, Kari is going to tell us about vendors and suppliers.
Yeah, so Leo just talked a lot about, considerations to ensure that we're maintaining regulatory requirements and some of the drivers for the regulatory requirements being put into place. With all of that information, you can probably understand how important it is to partner with the right vendors and suppliers, whether those people are providing you raw materials or goods in the form of your ingredients for your product or the packaging for your product, or maybe it's folks who are providing testing services to you or partnering with you to do some of the environmental impact studies. All of those things are crucial to getting the product approved and ensuring that the product is doing what it is intended to do over time. So some considerations that we're going to discuss in this section of the presentation, just very quickly, are going to be researching vendors and suppliers to ensure that the quality and safety standards you have for your business as well as the FDA expects are being met by those vendors. Again, high level thought process around cost, delivery time, reliability, ensuring compliance with regulatory requirements when we're looking at vendors and suppliers, the company's records, as well as other customer feedbacks, testimonials, and evaluating the consultative services that those vendors or suppliers offer to help ensure the best product outcome in the end for your material. So to start this section, we're going to talk again about the research of vendors and suppliers on the compliance side of things. This is a really essential step in ensuring that both the quality and safety standards are met. When it comes to sourcing vendors and suppliers, it's really important to consider factors like their reputation, their past compliance track record and current compliance with regulations, as well as their record for delivering high quality products and services, either to your business or other businesses that use them. This piece includes verifying that they have all of the necessary certifications. So examples would be ISO as well as OSHA. and looking into their quality control processes. When working with suppliers, we also want to consider and establish clear guidelines and expectations so that both parties know what is expected of each other, and that way everyone is on the same page. So you want a partner that's going to be willing to collaborate with you and ensure that all of the key stakeholders are kept up to date. Conducting thorough research and the due diligence side of things can help the business manufacturer maintain the highest standards of quality and safety, as well as building a strong relationship with a trustworthy and reliable partner in the industry. In terms of cost, quality, and reliability, when it comes to business operations, we all know that choosing the right vendors and suppliers is absolutely crucial. One of the most important factors to consider when we're assessing these vendors is cost. However, we don't want to cut corners, and we know that cost is not the only driver or factor that should be weighed when we're making decisions for our businesses. Delivery time and reliability are also very, very important. When we're talking about delivery time, we know that that's important simply because it affects the speed at which your business can operate, as well as ultimately it's going to affect your end user, how quickly you can get a drug or excuse me, nutritional product to the users that rely on you to do so. If suppliers can't deliver to you on time, you know that your business is going to potentially face delays or lost opportunities. Furthermore, delivery reliability is important because you need to be confident that your suppliers will deliver what you've ordered when you need it and in optimal condition. Again, cost can't always be the main consideration when assessing partners. Price might be attractive sometimes, but we have to really look at the long-term impact on the business. Choosing a provider that supplies quality products and services at competitive prices will save you money in the long run, as well as reduce potential risks or disruptions that could arise from doing business with an unreliable source. Factoring in all of these variables allows a business to make informed decisions that really will ultimately benefit your own business or the manufacturer's business, as well as their partners or the end users of their product. The third piece of reviewing vendors and suppliers is the compliance piece. So ensuring that these vendors or suppliers are compliant with regulatory requirements for animal veterinary products is really crucial and vital for both the safety of the animals and their owners, as well as your brand reputation, your business reputation. The regulatory requirements for animal veterinary products cover a range of areas, as we've previously discussed. So including manufacturing, testing, labeling, distribution, all of these things are in place for a purpose. And that purpose is to ensure that the product that we have in the marketplace is safe, effective, and meets specific quality standards. To ensure compliance with these regulations, veterinary companies must invest in research and development, their quality assurance team, and their regulatory affairs teams. Taking a proactive approach to regulatory compliance, veterinary companies can ensure that their products are effective, safe, and meet or exceed the standards set by those regulatory bodies. Researching a company's track record and customer feedback is also very important. This is part of the due diligence piece of the process. You can gain a lot of insights into a company's reputation, their reliability, and their performance when you speak to other customers. This can sometimes involve looking at a company's history, mission statement, and previous successes or failures. Maybe they have case studies, or maybe they will allow you access to other customers that you can have an open dialogue with, depending on what kind of project you have going on. You can also look into their current reviews and ratings from customers, and this will help identify red flags, areas of concern, any thing that you might want to have further conversations about before you commit to working with this vendor. Customer feedback really does provide a wealth of information about a company's products and services, as well as their customer service. Trends in their customer feedback can sometimes reveal whether a company consistently delivers high quality products, as well as treats its customers with respect. When we're evaluating vendor and supplier consultation services, there are a few factors that we also want to consider to ensure the best product outcome. So first and foremost, it is important to assess the expertise of the vendor or supplier in the specific area of products you are trying to develop. Again, we're looking at the vendor's history, their past projects, what their track record looks like for successful product development, as well as their presence in the industry, their industry knowledge, and networking, and network in general. What does their footprint look like? Who do they work with? Another important factor to consider is the vendor or supplier's communication and collaboration skills. So good communication is essential for staying updated on the development process and identifying any potential issues before they become major problems. This is probably seems like pretty basic stuff, but it could be overlooked in the vendor review process. We really want to make sure that any vendors that a business decides to use is a vendor that is going to be collaborative, and will be able to incorporate feedback as well as make necessary adjustments on their end to provide the best possible product outcome for your business. Finally, it's important to consider the vendor or supplier's pricing and timeline for delivery. Again, cost should not be the only driver. We want to make sure that we're getting competitive prices without sacrificing quality. With that, I think that concludes our presentation today. Leo, did you have anything you wanted to add here at the end of the presentation?
Hi, everyone. We have a few references here. There are so many regions that you would need to consider to get a full global view. So just a few references that we looked at for preparing this presentation here are listed here on this slide. So just kind of wanted to kind of highlight those and emphasize the importance of finding the local regulations that apply to your product, and that might depend on both where it's manufactured and where it's going to be distributed and sold. That's about all I have. I think we went over a little bit here, but we do, I believe, have some time for questions. Genevieve?
Yes.
Is there any time left?
Yeah, we have a few questions. Thank you guys for your presentations. If anyone else has questions, they can continue to submit them to the chat. We'll get to as many as we can before we run out of time. Remember also that this webinar was recorded, so you'll get the slides and the recording within 3 business days. With that, our first question is, how can the development of veterinary products be optimized for maximum efficiency?
A few things come to mind. Experienced subcontractors is the first thing that comes to mind. So hiring experienced subcontractors or CROs, those contract research organizations. So these experienced professionals can provide valuable insights into animal health challenges and help develop new products that meet rigorous, regulated testing requirements. The background and understanding to help partner with you to develop those products. So make sure that you are working with someone who's knowledgeable and experienced. That would be the track for the most efficient way of getting a product approved, developed.
Great, thank you. Our next question is, What is typically the timeline for developing a new animal veterinary product?
It's a loaded question. It varies. So, again, depending on whether or not that product is GRAS, generally recognized as safe, or would be classified as a drug product in the US. So those have different tracks. Even for a GRAS product, it could be possible that that ingredient is maybe not defined in the AFCO feed additive compendium. And so there could be a process associated with getting a new ingredient defined. An example that comes to mind is hemp seed is not defined in the feed additive compendium as a protein source for animals. So there's some work going on in that area. So if it's a drug product, you can perform the studies, do all the diligent research on the front end, and submit that work to the FDA for review. And it's possible that they could come back and have some other work for you to do to demonstrate safety and efficacy. In general, though, the process can take several years. It begins with research and development. It progresses through clinical trials and testing and pilot studies. And it's not uncommon for the process to take 5 to 7 years or more sometimes. It can greatly vary. It can be shorter than that too.
Excellent. All right. It looks like we have just one last question. And that question is, what are some key considerations when deciding whether to pursue development of a new veterinary product?
Assessing the demand, just verifying the need, and for the region. Again, considering those regional conditions and diseases, how effective is your product going to be in a different area with different influences. Also understanding the competitive landscape, competing products that you might have to deal with in that market are things to consider. Also, of course, like I've mentioned quite a few times now, those regulatory requirements or challenges could be different in those different regions. So that's why we've mentioned in this presentation that it's important to make these considerations during the development process. What other markets could your product potentially be extended to? And does it make time to do some sort of ancillary work that could be related to your project that would support development to a different commercialized market? I hope that helps.
All right, great. Yeah, thank you so much for those answers. And thank you, Kari, also for your presentations and sharing your expertise with us. And thank you everyone for attending. Have a great day.
Thank you, everyone. Goodbye.